we were just chatting before, and we thought, we might just keep it fairly informal and talk about health or,
Sure.
as I said, human
Sure.
sensibility.
Sure.
So at the clinic, I'm a big fan of ancestral wisdom in health, and looking at cultures who've done it the same way for a long, long time, and yet show no signs of degenerative disease or ill health. And I was particularly fond of the book by Sally Fallon, Nourishing Traditions. I
Yes.
don't know if you're aware of that book.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very much.
Good. I like the subtitle that it's a cookbook that challenges politically correct nutritional advice and the diet dictocrats.
Mm-hmm.
So dictocrats and politically correct are two things that really make me think, and I was just wanting to get your take on the concept that, I don't know, maybe it's the last 3 generations or so in the Western world have been the only people who actually need to be told what to eat for good health. Beforehand, it's just sort of been passed through the generations. Now we rely on diet dictocrats to tell us this. So, do you have any comments on that?
Well, yeah. We have moved from a kind of tribal, familial, participatory osmosis to a governmental orthodoxy, and this orthodoxy has several tenets, several doctrines, if you will,
Sure.
in this orthodoxy. That those of us who are heretics tend to not ascribe to in this great inquisition of the heretics sponsored by the orthodoxy. Some of these things are, for example, that sterile equals safe.
Yeah.
That in order to be safe, food must be sterile, and of course we're not sterile. We have 3 trillion bacteria inside of us, and so sterile food is not what our bacteria need. They need food that's living, and living things tend to not be sterile.
That's right.
Another orthodoxy is that there is no differentiation among foodstuffs. Beef is beef, wheat is wheat. This was the problem with the food pyramid in the U.S. That came out in 1978, that put grain on the bottom of the food pyramid, but it didn't differentiate between, for example, Pop-Tarts and Rice Krispies and, say, fresh sprouted quinoa bread, for example. And so this lack of differentiation is an orthodoxy now in the food system, to the point where, for example, now that they're requiring labeling and nutrition analysis on foods. Farm heretics like us, whose food is worlds apart than the current orthodoxy, in order for us to affix an accurate label to our food, would cost thousands and thousands of dollars in laboratory analysis. But the USDA, the government, is very happy for us to use the generic label on our grass-finished beef and our pastured eggs, and so that's what we do because that's the only thing we can afford. It's as incorrect as can be, but it's the unintended consequence of labeling requirements that many in the foodie movement are pushing is to eliminate the differentiation on artisanal foods. People like us. So there's an orthodoxy. This differentiation is an orthodoxy. There's another orthodoxy that that food stability does not affect its nutrient density, i.e., that if we take perishable foods that will rot, and we make them shelf stable, that has no effect on nutrient density. So we have Velveeta cheese instead of cheese that that grows mold on your table in 24 hours. you squeeze Velveeta on your table, and it sits there for 12 months, and it doesn't get moldy, it doesn't desiccate, it doesn't change, it just sits. And the fact is that food that won't rot typically won't digest. Digestion is a rotting process. It's just a permutation on composting, and if it won't rot, it won't digest. So that's an orthodoxy. We have the orthodoxy that the type of production in food has no effect on its quality. So we can feed a cow corn, we can feed him grass, and it doesn't have any effect on nutritional components or the viability of that food.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but you get the
Please
sense.
do. Yeah.
I mean, there's an orthodoxy even that we don't want people on farms. That farms like ours that actually encourage visitors and urban visitors, people to come and that they actually bring diseases to the farm and threaten the entire planet's food supply because they're gonna bring flu to the pigs, which then are going to enter this governmental annihilation program and jeopardize all the state's farmers' livelihoods, and therefore the economy is going to collapse because we had visitors to the farm that brought disease. So there's this notion that farming can and should be done sans people. And of course, the heretics like us say that for farming to be done well, it requires a level of knowledge that can only be done when people don't have to know, don't have so much land or so many animals to know.
Yeah.
That it can only be known within certain human limitations. There's the orthodoxy that sickness is primarily a deficiency of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And heretics like us believe that sickness is an indicator of a breakdown in immunological terrain. And so, when our animal gets sick, we immediately ask, well, what did we do to break down the immunological terrain? Whereas the orthodoxy, all of our neighbor farmers say, the animal gets sick, this animal must be pharmaceutically disadvantaged. There must be some drug I'm not using or some concoction. So anyway, there's just a host of this orthodoxy that we have now that has pretty much squeezed the non-compliant people into this box of heresy, and there we are.
That's right. So what do you think the catalyst for the disconnect with this traditional wisdom and this way of living with the earth? What do you think the catalyst was? Is it money? Or?
Well, there was certainly a tremendous amount of ecological destruction. Yeah, with that from me, I might have to break off here.
Yeah.
I thought it was a, I didn't know it was a camera thing.
Yeah.